Welcome to the Blissful Breakfast with Breegs. Today we have a glorious show with Aaliyah and Jade. We're talking about signs, numerology, animal signs, angel numbers, the meaning of 911, the spiritual meaning for 911, which is actually probably not what you think. It is a glorious number. You have to watch till the end so you can learn how to be more in tune, how to read signs from God, from the universe, from your guides. Check it out.
Let's guzzle down some bliss. I love you. Be blessed.
9/11 is a reminder of that everything is happening for a reason, I believe. In it, as bad as an event or something that's going on in your life can seem, that you are on the right path. I believe that that is what 9/11 means. Just thinking about what 9/11 actually means, like why we acknowledge 9/11 to be a date, is like there are things, good things that can come out of bad situations. So just to remain being. That's how I see 9/11 as. I could be wrong, but that's just how I see it.
It's deep too. So I have some screenshots. It's breaking out of old patterns and forging ahead into new areas. Some you may have never anticipated. Be aware, be prepared. Chance favors the prepared mind. Combination of 9 and 11 indicate you need to be more confident and trust yourself more than you currently are. That resonates with me a lot, big time. It's a karmic number that encourages you on a path to not only attain your own enlightenment, but to never be selfish about where you have arrived. And you're driven to share the gifts you have been able to attain yourself, a little bit like what we were talking about. Higher energy, inspiration, access to deeper, more subtle modes of consciousness, a catalyst for creativity and enthusiasm for good works and projects.
Dude, now think about that from the perspective of people that lost a loved one on 9/11, you know, that like that pattern breakup, that interrupt, that like being pushed into a new direction, like as bad as things are, like there's a reason behind it. And that like that movement and, you know, needing to get creative, like that's weirdly fitting. Like
it's beautiful. You know, yeah.
Event happened on that day, you know?
That's beautiful. I love diving deeper into numerology. That's something just as of the last couple of months that I've been like, okay, why is this number showing up for me constantly? Like I was seeing 5 a lot, like so much so that I started laughing every time I would see it. I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, come on now. So I dove into the number 5 and it is all about change. 5 is the only number that's open on both ends from left or right. So it represents a constant flow of energy. So if you think like an S, it's kind of similar to that, like a 5 open on both sides. So I started diving deeper into that and I'm like, oh, I need change in my life. And when I started to act on that, then another number started showing up for me and then another. And I wanted to actually steer this conversation in the direction of just seeing signs and numbers, because yesterday, something had happened to me where they're doing construction on the road that I live on, or like, you know, there's a bunch of vehicles parked on the road. So I couldn't go down the normal path that I would go down to get to my house. And I went the long way around. And when I went the long way around, I saw 3 repeated numbers on that path that I would not normally go down at all.
Yes.
And I was like, this is the path I was supposed to go down, like clearly. So you know, when you see those things come up for you, that pattern interrupt, that now you're seeing signs thrown in your direction. That was like exactly what I needed in that moment. Was like, yeah, maybe I was actually, I'm not going to lie, you know, like a little bit frustrated when I saw all these cars parked on the road. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I have to throw my car in reverse, like go around. Like it was a split second. And then when I drove down that way, I was like, wow, this path is actually beautiful. I've never actually looked at these houses. And then I see 3 license plates with repeated numbers.
What were the numbers?
444, 999, and 4545.
Ooh, and then what was that speaking to you? Like what did you recognize for communicating through that?
I actually still have to dive deeper into what 999 means, because later I'd never seen 999. If you think about time, right? Like I normally see the time ones like 1111, 911.
It's harder to see.
this was later in the evening, right after I saw 999. I was like, what the frick does this mean? I took a picture of it again because I was like, 2 times in one day.
Oh,
I don't even know. So like,
that's a
when
good
those things,
sign.
yes, when they come up for me, like I'm still at the point where I'm not like just equipped with all this knowledge. I have to take screenshots and like dive deeper into it. But that's the fun part is like, why does this keep showing up for me? Like, how common is this really for me to see repeated nines? Not really. So obviously that means the universe is trying to tell me something. So stay tuned for that. Maybe in a future episode. I'm not really sure what 999 means yet, but
999. And I think, yeah, the seeking of it and to listening and to following that path is so important. 999 is like pure source, basically. It's like high enlightenment. It is like connection to the oneness. You'll have to seek it out on yourself. I don't really know. I know
it. I know 9 is the number of completion, but not finality. 12 is the final number, the number of completion and finality. Cause there's like 12 months, 12 zodiacs. A lot of things are surrounded with the number 12 of completion. And it always has been. I don't know if my microphone is over here, but
normal. I also like the 12 tribes, right?
Yeah.
It's 12 everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So always, and leaning into those signs as they show up for you, it doesn't just have to be numbers, right? Like before we had recorded this episode, I showed Jade and Breegs a cardinal in the background of a picture. The signs are everywhere. So I'm definitely curious to know for you guys, like, how do you distinguish when the universe is trying to speak to you through different signs versus like, oh, that's just is what it is, That the cardinal in the back of the picture could have just been a cardinal in the back of the picture for a lot of people. But to me, it was like, holy fuck, the universe is trying to tell me something.
Yeah. Jade, what do you think?
I mean, my brain kind of goes back and forth, to be honest. It depends on how connected I am to the reality of the oneness. Because that is like the interconnection, that like there is no space between us. This, like, when I'm really connected to that, then everything kind of clicks more. When I get separated from that cognitively, then it doesn't, then it's a little bit more confusing. But it helps a lot when I keep seeing repeated numbers. So for me, like 33 is what's comes up constantly, and I thank my guides when I see it. I know which guide is putting them there. We've had this conversation about it. And then, I find that the more that I acknowledge and appreciate the signs, the more they keep coming. And the more it's almost, I don't know. It's almost like this fun draw. Cause I started with numbers, and then I started like finding a lot more animal ones. So I see herons a lot, and they are representative of like patience and self-sufficiency. I'm like, oh, that's perfect for what, like that makes sense that I would be seeing them. And it's like comforting. It's like, okay, I can like, that is what the season is cultivating within me. And that is important. And I can do it. I've also had, oh God, this one time it was like a dead bird in front of the door. I was like, what the hell does that mean? And it's like this like grief and hopelessness, but also like change and transformation. And it was like, I was in the season of like grief and hopelessness. It also talks about like toxic environment. And I was a very toxic environment. But then it was like the change was just around the corner. I think it was within a week, maybe 2, we got a new home to live in. And so it was like, that like full circle, right? Like death, and then comes new life. What else? One time I was like really like stressed and out of my practice. And then I was like walking on the bridge down the street from my house, and there was just this praying mantis chilling there on the bridge, and it was actually this, like, I looked it up, and it was a reminder to meditate and to get back, to like move into your practice and to find, like, to go within. Like, oh, this is so
wow.
a couple things that you had mentioned that stood out to me that I want to jump all over that. Like, I just wanted to like keep diving in deeper into like your experiences, but I love the example of animals, right? Because I recently actually had a parrot show up for me in my meditation so vividly. Like I could feel, like I thought I could reach out and touch this parrot. Like as I'm visualizing it, I could see every feather, I could see everything. And the experience was so different than anything I've ever visualized in my meditations before. And I looked into the meaning of it because it was so strong. And a parrot obviously will repeat things that other people are saying, so it's like, be careful what you are saying and what you are putting out there. So I was like, I am thinking about it in terms of my podcast and my purpose and my dharma, that right now, maybe my audience isn't as big as it will be in the future. Right. But those are still episodes that they can listen to, and they might actually take the advice that I'm putting out there quite literally. And I'm on a path of learning and evolving myself. So I'm not equipped with all of the answers. So I made sure to make it a point every time I'm talking about something based off of my experiences to say, this is my experience, that I am not a guru. I am not a coach, because people will take things quite literally if you don't address and disclaim that, because research these days includes a quick Google search of, whatever comes up for you, and people take everything to heart. Right. So that for me was like a sign that if this really is the path that I want to go down, this is my purpose, I need to be very mindful with the words that I am choosing to speak. And almost as if and talking in real life too, with people that I'm interacting with, as if I'm being recorded. And if I listen back to it, would I be happy with the words that I'm choosing to say and the message that I'm trying to get across? So these signs can show up in a number of different ways, but you'll know when to lean into it. Like the dead bird on your porch, right? You could have just said, oh, just a bird died on my porch, but you knew there was something deeper there. How did you know that there was something deeper there?
I think when things are a little bit more unusual.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I don't see that all the time. Like, for example, there's a spiritual meaning to squirrels, but my yard is filled with them. And I'm like, that's probably just because of where I live,
right.
There are definitely some beautiful meanings that I can take out of them, but it's nothing out of the usual. Whereas when I see a freaking hawk come down and eat a bird and then go and butcher it, I'm like, well, that's unusual. Or a dead bird on my, in front of my door, or a heron in the stream. It's like, well, you don't see that every day. That might mean something. I'm going to check it out. And then I check it out, and it's like, that makes sense. That resonates.
Yes. I love that. And Breegs, I forgot you were here for a second. Let's let I'm sorry. You were being quiet. Come on, you got to chime in.
I'm just observing. I'm holding space.
I love it.
That's so funny. I forgot I was here too.
Just existing.
Yeah, I think if you're listening and you don't see angel numbers or repeating numbers, if you don't see 111 or 222, that's totally fine. I think it's, if you are aware and you have an inkling of a belief that the things that you see and experience can be meaningful and can be a lesson that you can learn something, then that's going to open the gateway to see more. Like you guys said, if you acknowledge it and receive it, you're going to start seeing more of it. And I didn't see angel numbers. I didn't see repeating numbers until I was 33 years old. And I think just when a lot of people were kind of waking up to new experiences. And when I was 33, wait a second, how old am I now? I'm 34 now. Really? Was it just then? Gosh, I'm such a baby. But 33 is when Jesus died. And there's kind of a thing where when you turn 33, there's a new awakening to you. And I think there's a lot of new awakenings at all sorts of stages of your life, but there's apparently something to do with 33. And I literally started seeing 33s all over the place when I was 33 and 333. It was a joke. at first it was like, you see one, like, okay. Then you see some other one create like, okay. And then you see another one. You're like, oh, and you just see like 10 of them in a day all over the place. And for a while I took screenshots all the time. I was like, oh my God, 333. And it got so normal that it's just like, just seeing miracles all the time. My guides are trying to contact me. It was so beautiful. But so for me, it didn't happen until I was 33. And I did this weird thing called like the Christ oil sacred secretion thing, where you kind of find your your sun sign. When the moon is in your sun sign, you kind of fast, you don't eat anything, and you kind of there's like these chemicals secretion that kind of goes up to your pineal gland, or goes down to your sacral area, and then it comes back up if you don't disturb it with chemicals, with like alcohol or whatever. And then it helps you to kind of awaken and enlighten, supposedly. And I did that, and I felt like this pulsating feeling on my third eye. And then ever since then, I felt this calmer peace. And I just like started seeing angel numbers like it was going out of style. It would be a 333, and then it would be a little 222, a little 111 action. And ever since then, now I see them all over the place. And I leaned into it. I started looking it up. I ignored it for a long time, but then I would look it up here and there and save some photos that kind of give you a brief description of what they are to my phone. And then now it's just like, everything I do is a synchronicity. Everything is just and my angels are trying to tell me something. Let's lean into that. And I think it's just a matter of like believing that the higher realm is trying to help you out in this life. You're going to be more connected. And if you're not into that, that's fine. If you're not ready for that, that's totally cool. But I highly recommend you can just take everything that happens to you as a coincidence. But I find way more bliss when you take everything that happens to you, like for you, as a meaningful event. And it's okay to dismiss some stuff, but there's going to be some things that, like, if you lean into it, if you try to receive it, it is going to benefit your life. It's going to be a blessing. Like reading, like I love fantasy novels, and I started getting into Brandon Sanderson. I've never read any of his books. I'm binging all his books, because every time I turn the page, every character in his books, I start resonating with at least one character, and it's like the hero's journey, but it's like exactly what I'm going through. And I like resonate so much with it. So whether it's books, whether it's numbers, I don't even see the animals very much. I'm not in tune with the animals. Sometimes I'll see eagles. I actually see a fair amount of eagles. And I know that's a good sign. I don't remember. Do you guys remember what eagles are good for? Or what they're like in a sign
America.
of abundance, right? Yeah, America.
It's like higher perspective, because you have that like bird's eye view, and there's something very powerful about the eagle as well.
I love that, Breegs, that you had mentioned too, like even just that you don't see animals, right? Because right now the odds are kind of against you, right? Me and Jade are like, oh yeah, we see these animals, where you might feel like maybe I'm not as spiritual because I don't see animals, but I was in that place with numbers. I remember all my friends talking about seeing 1111 and all of these things. And I'm like, why the fuck am I not seeing numbers? Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Am I not like conscious? Am I not aware? Am I not awake? But I had to actually open myself up to receiving those signs and actually invite that energy into my life.
I've got a few points here that I think are really helpful for listeners.
Yes, please jump in.
Okay, so when it comes to seeing signs, I think it's really important that we are asking our guides, the universe, spirit, our highest self, ancestors, angels, whatever it is, like the supporting forces in our lives. I think it's really important that we're actually asking them for signs, because they're like hanging out, but they're dependent on our free will. Like they can't just intervene. So I think we like ask for it and we open ourselves up to it. We begin to see more of these things. And also there's the reticular activating system where, that like whatever you're thinking about, you will see more of. Your brain kind of like filters, right? And so it's like sometimes these things are all around us, but we're not seeing it because like our brain hasn't opened up to it. But as soon as we open our brain up to it, we start to see it around us more. So I think those are some like great ways that our listeners can like apply these things and like kind of like open up doors to see the totem animals, to see the numbers, to like find that flow simply by asking and acknowledging. And then also, Breegs, I loved what you said about, how did you say it? Like seeing everything not as a coincidence, but as like, you know, being put in your path. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things where like, I 100% agree. But there's this part where it's like, what meaning are we assigning to it? Because some people, like I've gone through this and I am sure that I am not the only one, you know, it's like this came into my path. It must mean this. And it's like, oh no, actually it came into your path to test you or to like push you in a different direction, not because it's the way that you must go, but seeing everything that comes into your life as a guidance tool. And that's where we can follow that feel good, feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the ultimate check, the feel good, feel bad, like our previous episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like seeking lessons, seeking growth, like everything comes in to our lives for our good, but that doesn't mean it's going to look good right away. Like sometimes it comes into our life for our good in order to bring some sort of interchange, a change in perspective, a change in the way that we see ourselves so that we can move into alignment, you know, with what we want, whatever it might be. So yeah, I just wanted to like affirm those, like, yes, spot on. And I think these are how we can apply them.
Yes, that's such a good point. Thank you for sharing that. And if anyone needs a helpful tool in this, because that's what we're all looking for, how to follow guidance, how to go down the right path. We want the answers. We want the yes and no. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I stay in this relationship? Do I leave? Do I go to this school? Do I learn this? Do I get this job? What is it? Give me the answers. If you need like a good tool, I've recently read The Alchemist. It's a short book. It was on my list for years. Finally read it. Freaking love it. Super simple, but it gives a lot of simple stories and examples of how to follow synchronicities, how to pursue your personal legend. And it gives us examples of like, okay, you may have gotten stolen from and now you have nothing, but that's going to lead you to connecting with this one person and learning this one skill. And then that's going to lead you to where you really want to go. And it's so like following those things is so challenging, but Jade, like that, just like in our last episode, that is it feel good? Does it not feel good? And like, that is the golden compass. And it's so funny because there's so many lies around this where like, you have to, you know, God's going to send you where, you know, you don't want to go, or you're going to have to like, you have to suffer. And we have to like, they're so funny because it's always two sides to every coin, but we feel like we can't feel bliss. We can't feel joy, that we have to feel guilty for feeling happy. But the truth is the universe is trying to guide us to our highest fulfillment. We are in The Alchemist, it says the universe, what is it? Not feasts, is not replenished. What is it like when you eat something and you're satisfied? It uses satiated kind of, gosh, I don't know. But the universe feeds off of, and is nourished. That's the word. The universe is nourished when we are following our bliss, when we are following our joy and happiness. So like, those are the markers of like, if this lights you up, if you get excited about this thing, that's your body saying, yes, go there.
And that's been so conditioned out of us from school. And like we
yes. It's so crazy. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Like, you are told how to feel when you are going through school, and when you are like, you know, a kid growing up in the society that we live in, you're told how to feel based off of what we're seeing on social media, based off of how other people feel. And that should be our norm. And you're weird, you're woo-woo, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're whatever, if you're thinking outside of those that box, you know. But yeah, I mean, ascending is thinking outside of that box and actually opening yourself up to receiving those signs and following those signs, right? In my last podcast episode, I said, don't be afraid to follow your intuition, even if other people are telling you that you should go in this direction, but your intuition is telling you to go in that one, because that might be everybody else's true north, or maybe not. They're just a bunch of lost sheep following the crowd, and your North Star is actually over here. But unless you listen to the signs, then you're not going to be able to go the direction where your true north is, where Dharma is leading you, if you follow everybody else just out of fear of not belonging, or fear of being left behind, or being canceled, or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, school does such a good job at teaching kids how to hate reading and hate learning, when our natural state is to like love learning. Why? How, mommy? How does this happen? Why? Kids love to read. It's like, yeah, dude, school does a great job at just like,
yeah. Yes.
I truly do believe that the current systems were set up to support the Industrial Revolution and make us cogs in a machine.
yeah.
Yes, Infinite Waters talks about it all the time. Like, we are literally born into a society born into a system that sets us up to fail. Unless you think for yourself, like, it's a dead end road.
Yeah, it's a system based on lack.
Yes.
Like, we're pushed into this lack mindset of like, oh, you have to do this if you want to like have a stable finances, or a happy life, or, you know, a family. Like, you have to follow this route because, you know, and it's just this based on like, because there's not enough, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I actually, now that you say that, you know, I was having a conversation with one of my family members recently, and he was like, you know, just like every marriage, or just like every relationship, it's great at first, and then in the middle, it goes through the difficult times. And then you actually begin to realize why you're together, and then you can live in harmony. And I was like, you are telling yourself that is your belief based off of what other people have told you. It doesn't have to be that way. There's this book called The Honeymoon Effect, which is on my list of books to read. I haven't dove into it yet, so I'll be completely honest there, but I know the idea of it is like, why can we not have an everlasting honeymoon effect with our partner? Like, we just challenge that belief and say like, yeah, fuck that idea of going through a honeymoon phase. If I'm going to marry somebody or commit to somebody for the rest of my life, I want the whole relationship to be a honeymoon effect. But that is a path of actually putting an effort and actually leaning into the signs, leaning into each other, and trusting in that, when like society is telling us relationships are hard work, you know, like the divorce rates being constantly thrown at people, the whole like women empowerment, independence thing. Like, there's a lot of different things that are being thrown at us to make us believe that relationships have to be such difficult work, because that's what creates divide amongst humans. And that's what the system wants, is divide amongst human beings. So, I mean, that's like, okay, so I'm realizing now we're kind of short on time, but that's a whole different conversation that we can go into, just based off of beliefs that are being instilled into us that we don't even realize, like that one, that relationships are difficult. They have to be so much work when they really don't have to be.
There's so many beliefs and preconceived things. Yeah, that's a really good point, Aaliyah. And yeah, we'll segue to wrapping up this episode. I think like being aware of that, you know what, this world we're joining into and participating in is set up to be challenging and to really constrict us. And so being aware of that is really helpful to break free of that and to like challenge things. And that awareness is powerful. And I know sometimes it can be very daunting for people if they get too lost in conspiracies or too lost in the challenges of the world, because it is challenging, but the more awareness you have of it, the more it allows you to pull back and to eject yourself from that. And I think it's all about getting back to being the child who is just naturally loving, naturally in a flow state. And we have to deprogram ourselves. And that journey is going to lead you to more bliss. And yeah, man, like being a parent, and Jade, I'm sure, you know, like there's so many challenging things. There's just like relationships. There's all these preconceived notions. Being a parent, there's all these preconceived notions, and it's all about choosing your own experiences. And it's hard. Like it's going to be challenging. Maybe not hard, but like there's going to be challenges. And, but there's ways of navigating that and having perspective to where, oh my gosh, you can reinvent and have a whole different experience. All right. Any other closing thoughts before we wrap up? Jade, you got something. Jade, you're just like
this little like download as you were talking. I realized that like one of the things with kids is that they're not judging the experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They're just observing, right? What is like, if I mean, they definitely have their times where they're like in their own little egos and they're like, but like by and large, you know, so for example, weed saved my life, you know, and so since it's been the last 2, maybe 3 years, like it's been a regular part of my life. Like it helped me regulate my nervous system. Like when it was all out of whack, like that was like a huge tool, super helpful. And just given the living situation that we were in Bangkok, like I was not able to keep that separate from my children so they couldn't see it because, you know, it was a tiny ass apartment and it was illegal as fuck. So I couldn't just like go outside because, you know, that smell could be traced back to me. And it's punishable by death.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so it's like, Emmy has just observed it, you know, but it's like, she's not judging it. She's just like, oh yeah, that's mommy's medicine.
Yeah.
Mommy, when can I have that medicine? I'm like, oh, when you're 18. You know, but it's not like, she's not judging me for it. She's not, you know, creating all of these narratives around it, you know, or even if I get upset, she's not judging me for that. She's just like, huh. You know, she just like watches and observes and takes everything in and is making sense of it, you know, because when kids are little, it's like they're creating the map of their world. You know, it's that initial programming. They're determining what is normal, what is abnormal, what is safe, what is dangerous, what is healthy, what is unhealthy, where they're accepted, where they're not, what brings shame, what brings pain, what brings joy, acceptance, appreciation, like, you know, all of those things. And I think there's something key to that, of that just observing, not creating meaning, but just observing. It unlocks so much.
So beautiful. That's so powerful. Just like the J-man Jesus talked about, you just got to be like a kid, have some childlike faith, be like a child, man. That's so good. All right, we're going to wrap it up. That was beautiful. I hope that this conversation is going to allow you to see signs, to follow the signs in your life, whether it's animals, whether it's numbers, whether it's people, conversations, books, things. We just bless you to be able to follow the signs so you can live just a little bit more of a blissed out life. Thank you. Follow Jade on TikTok. Listen to Aaliyah's podcast and stay blissed.